I live in the weak and the wounded. A gorgeous, abandoned mental hospital, a dream job, asbestos cleaning crew, a horrific past revealing itself in different ways, primarily through tapes found containing the audio of a doctor interviewing former psych patient Mary Hobbs and others. Session 9 will always hold a special place in my heart. Always. And now it has come to Netflix. I felt almost obliged to pay homage with a review, albeit I was afraid to revisit this film. Not because the fear this movie produced in me in my younger years. The fear in this movie comes in like tides. There's highs and lows. But because this movie held the position in my mind and my memory as one of the scariest movies I'd ever seen, I carried that with me growing up. And I believe I only watched this movie once before, and I was a freshman in high school, a wee lad. So I was, I'll be honest, afraid of soiling that memory. I've held the position that for years that Session 9 was king of my horror castle. And I think that fear was holding me back from rewatching this perfect memory, staying up all night with a buddy of mine, Roberto, Christian, and that being just terrified together back freshman year in high school. And I was afraid to revisit. And then I find that it wasn't the mind-altering haunt that I've held in my beliefs since I was a child. Now, when I rewatched this movie a couple of days ago, I'll admit I didn't set a proper stage. I chickened out and I watched this when the sun was high. And as I say once a video, horror is best viewed in the guise of darkness. Just is. And that made all the difference. I'll do my best to be objective, divorcing my memories with my rewatch this week, provide you simply with a Session 9 review. Is it a movie worth your 1.5 hours, especially now with its accessibility on Netflix? Spoiler, yes. Now let's dig in a little bit. Yes, but watch it in the dark and alone if you want to get crazy. I'm telling you that the ambience and what that can do for the mind, it can set the stage before they even come out from behind the curtains. You follow a very likable, in Session 9, we're going to jump right in, human crew with very solid acting that immediately make you almost yearn for that brotherhood that comes from only blue-collar work. If you've ever done it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The poignant leader, Uncle Gordon, played beautifully by Peter Mullan. Now, his Scottish accent alone is worth the price of admission, but he also truly makes you feel the pain of his story you're introduced to very soon. He shows all the tough facades of the working man, a tough guy, a grinder that really struggles to try to show emotion and actually open up after something tragic happened in his life. And that's something just so foreign to this archetype, to Gordon. His relationship with Phil is a big perspective you view the movie through. And Phil is played by TV's favorite cop, or CIS, Miami cop, David Caruso. Sorry, I don't watch the shows, but I know he's big in that world. And that relationship's the anchor of this story. You follow these two primarily, a lot of awesome dialogue between them. Now, the director does a masterful job in Session 9 of taking a reliable lead of sorts in Gordon, who runs the operation, and through camera work, angles, and the tonality of conversation, dialogue, sound design, it makes you think twice about believing what you see, about trusting him. Even though his face and voice make you so easily give that trust. But early on, he tries to confide in Phil. And he does, but no warm reception. No response at all, really, from Phil. It was tough to watch. And maybe that's called for. You, as the audience, get to kind of decide that for yourself. But he lets Phil know. This is early on, and it carries through. But that he struck his wife. He's staying in a motel. And in a crying monologue, he retells the story of a baby crying, his dog barking, coming up behind his wife with roses and chocolates to give her a kiss, and her turning around and accidentally spilling boiling water on him. Gordon is a man suffering with no home, and the crew that isn't really privy to this info, they can tell something's up with him. They can see cracks through a man that's never cracked before. They've worked with him for a year. Josh Lucas's character, Hank, to be specific, we see through his lens. And by the way, wonderful performance. He's fantastic in the film. There's not a weak performance in this movie. I'll say that right now. And just through the dialogue with Phil, the movie kind of shows us, makes you brilliantly so question Gordon's memories and recollection even. Some flashback scenes are done well here. Now, there's several strings to follow in Session 9. Each build the tension of the other, and they're all building up to give way to an unbelievable climax. Unforgettable. The drama of the crew, stealing of girlfriends, domestic abuse, all with the backdrop of being an asbestos group, treating a substance that can take root in your lungs and at any moment alter your life forever. And then, with Mike of the crew providing a little bit of history to the place. This is not an ordinary place. And in this mental hospital, there's even talk and random lines that kind of bounce around in the mind while you're watching this that patients return. Now, it's been obviously abandoned for quite some time, for good reason, as that kind of untells too. Now, the most unnerving part of all of this movie, this entire movie, is when Mike, one of the crew members, played by Stephen Gevedon, stumbles upon some audio tapes deep in the bowels of this hospital. It starts as innocent curiosity, but then he finds himself late night, unable to leave, just listening to these audio tapes. It is of a doctor interviewing Mary Hobbs, former psychiatric patient. This interview is anything but normal. Probably why it was so intoxicating to him just to sit there and listen. And this is also, make no mistake, the coolest part of this movie and why I'm sitting here in front of you talking about it 20 years after its release. It came out in 2001. In these tapes, the doctor's interviewing Mary Hobbs. There's a couple other cast members. See, Mary Hobbs has MPD, multiple personality disorder. But there's one of these personalities that's almost indescribable. And that's really what holds the most mysterious element in this entire movie. And I don't want to give away too much here because this needs to be going in as green as you can, because it's what makes Session 9 so special. Very Moby Dickian vibes in this movie, by the way. Some crew rising against him, secret alliances, a white well of sorts. And if you've ever read Moby Dick, comment down below and let me know if you kind of see what I'm saying. I don't want to give away too much. But this movie, did it hold up to my over-romanticized memory from childhood? No. Not in what I remember the fear level being. But I don't think anything can hold up to that. And maybe that's just the Michael Scott mind in me, over-romanticizing everything. But you know what this movie was? It was a warm hug from that time period in my life. And make no mistake, this is a scary, very smart movie. And it's every bit worth of your 1.5 hours. 100%. And the fact it's on Netflix has me jubilant. One of my favorite films. And even if it wasn't on Netflix, anybody that knows me in real life, I always recommend this film. I was afraid to revisit, but I'm glad I did. And I don't think anything holds. I think that's what memories kind of do to us anyways. Nothing lives up to that. This movie's like reading a book with an unreliable narrator. It's a story that will keep your interest and your guard up. Let the moon rise, turn the volume up, and take a trip within Session 9. And just hope you're not Session 10. I live in the weak and the wounded.